the night was deep. Not just dark, but deep, as though the sky itself had no end, as though the stars were far, far away, dim lanterns strung across an endless void. The moon hung thin and pale, no brighter than a coin at the bottom of a well. The silence stretched heavy, and the silence itself felt alive. Pause 3 seconds. The only sound was the steady rhythm of boots upon gravel. Slow steps. Measured steps. Each crunch lingered longer than it should have, as if the road itself didn't want to give the sound back. The traveler carried a lantern in his right hand. The glass was smudged, and the small flame inside wavered with every breath of wind. It was not much light, only a fragile circle on the road ahead, but it was all he had. Beyond it, the darkness pulled thick, and the trees leaned in close on either side. The branches were heavy, bent like the arms of figures frozen mid-reach. Their leaves whispered softly in the breeze, though the breeze never touched the traveler's skin. More than once he thought he saw movement among the trunks, a shifting shadow, the suggestion of a face, but when he turned his lantern that way, there was nothing. Nothing but bark and branches and silence. He had been walking for hours. Perhaps longer. It was difficult to tell. The road curved, twisted back on itself, dipped and rose in ways that seemed unfamiliar. And yet there was a strange familiarity about it, too, as if he had walked it before in a dream. His legs ached, his eyes burned with weariness, but he kept on, because there was nothing else to do. And then he saw it. A house. It appeared between the trees as though the forest had drawn back just enough to reveal it. A dark structure, tall, crooked, its outline jagged against the dim sky. Its roof sagged at one corner, its windows were clouded and blank. Except one. In the upper floor, behind a tall, narrow pane of glass, a faint glow burned. The light was weak, no stronger than a single candle, but it was enough. Enough to catch the traveler's eye. Enough to remind him of shelter, of walls, of the possibility of rest. Pause 4 seconds. He slowed his steps. The lantern flame trembled, catching on the weeds at the roadside. There was a gate ahead. The gate rose from the earth like something that had been buried and forced its way free. Tall, iron, its bars twisted and warped by rust. At first, they looked like curls of metal. But as the traveler's lantern passed across them, he saw more. Shapes. Faces. The bars bent into the likeness of screaming mouths, hollow eyes, twisting features frozen in agony. He stopped. The gate was closed, but the road ended here. Behind him, nothing but the long path back through the trees. Ahead, the gate. Beyond it, the house. He stood very still. His breath rose in soft white clouds in the cool air. His hand tightened on the lantern's handle. And then he saw it, movement, far above. The window of the house. The one with the faint light. The curtain had shifted. Just for a moment. Just enough to suggest that someone, somewhere inside, had drawn it back. Someone was watching. The traveler's chest tightened. He swallowed, but the sound was loud in the silence, too loud. He considered turning back, considered walking the long road into the woods again. But exhaustion pressed on him like a weight. The thought of walls, of a bed, of even a chair by a fire, it pulled him forward. He reached for the gate. The iron was cold. Not the ordinary cold of night metal, but biting, sharp, like the chill of stone kept too long in the dark. It stung his palm as his fingers wrapped around one of the bars. He pushed. The hinges groaned. The sound was long, drawn out, more like a moan than the grind of rust. It echoed in the trees, carried far, until it seemed the whole forest had heard it. The gate swung open slowly, and the path beyond yawned wide. The traveler stepped through. The gravel path was almost buried under weeds. Roots pushed up through the stones. Each step felt uncertain, as though the earth shifted beneath him. His lantern light caught on broken branches, on thorns that clawed at his trousers, on damp patches of moss that gleamed slick and dark. The air grew colder. The deeper he walked, the heavier the silence became. The trees leaned closer until their branches arched overhead, forming a canopy that blocked the moon. He realized then that the house stood in a hollow, a dip in the earth. It sank into the land like a stone, surrounded by trees that seemed to guard it, or perhaps cage it. At last, he reached the front steps. They were wooden, warped with age, the boards sagging in the middle. When he set his boot upon the first, it groaned loudly, the sound hollow, like something deep beneath the house was stirring. The second step moaned louder. But they held. The door loomed tall before him. Its paint was gone, stripped away by weather and time. The wood was dark, swollen in places with damp. Iron nails jutted from it like broken teeth. He raised his hand to knock. And before he could touch the wood, the door opened. Slowly, silently, the gap widening inch by inch until the blackness beyond was revealed. No wind had touched it. No hand pulled it. It had simply opened. The traveler froze. The lantern wavered. His breath came short, shallow. The darkness inside felt thick. Not empty, not absence, but presence. It had weight. It seemed to lean out toward him, to press against his skin. But he was tired. So very tired. He stepped across the threshold. The air inside was cooler, heavier. It smelled of damp wood, of stone long untouched, and beneath it all, faintly, something metallic. Like rust. Or like blood. The lantern's glow revealed an entryway that stretched too far, much farther than the house should have allowed. The walls were lined with portraits, tall frames, gilded though dulled with dust. The faces inside were strangers. Old men with hollow eyes. Women with lips pressed thin. Children whose gazes were far too knowing. Their painted eyes followed him as he moved deeper into the house. Candles burned in iron sconces along the walls. The flames were small, but steady. They did not flicker. They did not drip wax. They simply burned, silent and unnatural. The traveler turned slowly, his breath shallow. He took another step, and another. And then he heard it. A voice. Low. Gentle. From the shadows above the staircase that climbed to the second floor. "You've come far," the voice said. "You should rest." The traveler's skin prickled. He raised his lantern toward the stairs. The shadows there were thick, deep, unbroken. No figure appeared. Only the faint sway of a chandelier overhead, dust falling like gray snow. He wanted to call out, to ask who was there. But his throat was dry, his tongue heavy. The words would not form. Instead, he only nodded, a slow, uncertain bow of the head, as though something unseen had given him no choice. He placed his foot on the first stair. The wood creaked, a long, low groan. He set his other foot upon the next. Another groan. The sound followed him as he climbed, the air around him pressing closer, heavier. At the landing, a hallway stretched before him. Longer than it should have been. Doors lined the corridor. Each one slightly open. From one, a whisper. Low and breathy, the shape of words without sound. From another, the soft scrape of movement. One door rattled softly, as though something inside leaned against it. But at the very end, a single door stood wide open. Light spilled from it, a candle glow, warm, golden. It was the only comfort in the entire house. The traveler walked the hall. His boots whispered against the boards. The whispers from the doors rose and fell, rising like the swell of distant breathing, falling again, only to rise louder. His pulse beat in his throat, heavy and slow. The open door drew closer. The candlelight glowed brighter. At last, he stepped through. The room beyond was simple. A narrow bed stood against the wall. The sheets were clean, turned down, waiting. A small wooden table bore a single candle, its flame perfectly still. Across from the bed, a tall mirror hung upon the wall, its surface dark, catching the light in faint shapes. The traveler closed the door behind him. The latch clicked softly. Final. He set the lantern on the table. Its flame died at once, leaving only the candle. The bed seemed to welcome him. His legs shook with fatigue. His body cried for rest. He sat, then lay back, the pillow cool against his cheek. His eyes closed. But the feeling came. That weight. The weight of a gaze. Pause 5 seconds. The traveler's hands shook as he pressed forward into the hallway beyond the candlelight. Each step was careful, cautious, but the floor beneath him groaned and shifted as though the house itself resented his intrusion. The walls seemed to stretch, bending slightly, so that the corridor was longer than it should have been, impossibly long, curling away into darkness that no lantern could illuminate. The portraits along the walls stared at him with increasing intensity. Faces of children, long-dead women, and hollow-eyed men seemed to breathe with a subtle, almost imperceptible motion. Their eyes glinted as if catching some unseen light, following him as he walked. The mouths of a few twisted in silent screams, and for a fleeting second, the traveler swore he heard them whispering his name. Pause 3 seconds. A door swung open ahead of him, though no wind stirred. He felt compelled to approach it. The darkness inside was thicker than anywhere he had been before, and it pulsed faintly, as if alive. The floorboards in the room shifted beneath his weight like the belly of some great, slumbering beast. The traveler's lantern flickered, revealing shapes that should not exist. Furniture bent unnaturally. Shadows leaned over corners. And in one fleeting glance, a figure, tall, impossibly thin, faceless, stood at the far wall, watching him. Before he could speak or move, it vanished, leaving only the echo of movement in the darkness. He stumbled back into the hallway, and now the portraits seemed closer, their frames leaning forward, almost eager. The children's eyes glowed faintly, watching, waiting. The whispers returned, louder now, circling in his mind. You should rest. You belong here. Don't fight. The air grew heavier. It pressed down on his chest, his limbs. His heartbeat drummed loudly in his ears, though the house seemed to amplify it, matching it, mocking it. A soft scrape sounded from above, the staircase he had climbed moments ago. Something moved there, slow, deliberate, not made of flesh but of shadow and intent. He pressed on, forced himself forward, toward a light faintly glowing at the end of the hall. But the hall stretched endlessly. The candlelight seemed smaller with each step. And then the floor shifted beneath him. Boards lifted slightly, then snapped back, as though testing him. Pause 4 seconds. At the far end, a door opened silently into a room unlike the others. It smelled of earth and old metal. The walls were lined with mirrors, each reflecting him, but not truly. His reflection was wrong. Limbs elongated. His eyes hollow. His mouth moved, whispering words he could not hear. He blinked, and the reflections were gone. A door at the far side of the room creaked, opening slowly, revealing a corridor that seemed to descend endlessly. A faint, pulsing light came from below. Someone was waiting there. And he knew instinctively that to refuse the path was impossible. The whispers returned, urgent, surrounding him from all sides. Come. Come to the place beneath. Rest. Belong. The traveler's legs trembled. He descended, each step heavier than the last, the walls closing slightly, pressing, guiding him down. The air grew colder still, and he felt an unseen presence brushing his skin, sliding along his back, circling his neck, whispering promises he did not understand. At the bottom, the corridor opened into a vast chamber. Candlelight illuminated the center, a single chair, facing away, waiting. And around the walls, portraits leaned forward impossibly, their eyes glowing faintly. The shadows between them shifted, twisting into forms that were almost, but not quite, human. The traveler approached the chair, compelled, drawn by exhaustion, fear, and something older, something patient. He sat. The chair seemed to mold to him. The shadows leaned closer. The whispers softened to a lullaby, hypnotic, coaxing, almost soothing. Rest. Sleep. You are safe. You are home. And as his eyelids drooped, the chamber seemed to breathe with him. The shadows pulsed, the portraits leaned closer, the air shimmered with presence. He was not alone, but he was not afraid. Not yet. The last thing he felt before drifting deeper into the house's embrace was the soft brush of something cold, deliberate, ghostly, against his arm. A reminder, he was now part of the house. And the house waited. Pause 5 seconds. The traveler's eyelids were heavy, but every step toward the far end of the chamber demanded his attention. The shadows clung to the walls, moving with a life of their own. The portraits leaned impossibly forward now, eyes glowing faintly, mouths stretching in silent cries. At the far wall, he saw it, a door unlike any other. Blacker than shadow, sealed tight, pulsing faintly as if breathing. The air around it was colder than any winter night, carrying the scent of earth, iron, and something undefinable, like a memory long buried. He hesitated. Each instinct screamed to flee. But the whispers rose again, surrounding him, soft and insistent. You belong. You are ready. Come. His hand rose, trembling, toward the black knob. The moment his fingers brushed it, the house itself seemed to sigh, walls creaking, floorboards groaning, shadows pressing closer, circling him in patient anticipation. He turned the knob. It gave way with a groan like metal tearing through stone. The door swung open, revealing darkness deeper than any night, denser than any shadow he had felt before. It seemed alive, swirling slowly, curling toward him like tendrils of smoke, thick and heavy, pulsing with the soft rhythm of a heartbeat. The whispers became louder, now a chorus echoing in his mind. Come, rest, be ours, belong. The traveler stepped forward. The darkness embraced him immediately, heavy, soft, cold, wrapping around his limbs, his neck, his chest. It did not harm, but it pressed insistently, guiding him forward, swallowing the floor beneath his feet, filling the space around him until the edges of the room, the walls, even the candlelight vanished entirely. He felt weightless, yet pulled downward at the same time. The shadows merged with him, sliding over his skin, entering his mind. Memories, half-formed thoughts, and fears swirled together. He could no longer tell if he was moving forward or simply drifting within the darkness. The whispers softened, hypnotic now, like a lullaby sung by unseen voices. Rest, sleep, here, forever. Somewhere beneath the darkness, a pulse beat steadily, a slow, measured rhythm, like a giant heart beneath the house. The traveler's body moved in time with it, his limbs heavy, his head drooping, his breath slowing. The house had him. It was patient, ancient, and knowing. He tried to speak. Tried to call out. But no sound came. Only the sensation of being pulled, of surrendering, of letting go. And then, far ahead, he saw a faint glow, a warm, golden light, steady and welcoming. It was no longer a candle, no longer a flame. It was a promise. It was rest. He reached toward it. And the darkness seemed to fold itself around him, guiding him gently, softly. Every fear, every resistance, every heartbeat that had screamed in panic now slowed, matched to the rhythm of the house. The traveler felt the weight of the house settle upon him, comforting, patient, eternal. And as he drifted closer to the glow, the whispers coalesced into one final, serene phrase. "You are home." The traveler drifted forward, pulled by the soft, pulsing glow at the end of the corridor. But with every step or sensation of stepping, the darkness seemed to thicken, curling around his legs, pressing softly yet insistently, like cold fingers brushing over his skin. He could no longer tell if he was walking or floating. The floor beneath him groaned and shifted as though alive, responding to his every heartbeat, every shiver. Whispers rose from the walls, from the floors, from somewhere inside his mind. They were soft at first, coaxing, almost gentle. "You are safe. You are ours. You belong." But slowly, they thickened, overlapping, pressing harder, insistent now, almost desperate. "Do not resist. Do not fight. Come closer." The candle he carried flickered violently. Shadows stretched across the walls, reaching out toward him, bending and twisting as if aware of his presence. The portraits along the hallways leaned closer, their faces morphing subtly. Eyes glinting black, mouths stretching in silent, hungry screams, hands reaching from the frames. Children's faces, pale and hollow, pressed against the glass as if they could escape, yet remain trapped, watching, waiting. The traveler's heart hammered in his chest. Each pulse echoed unnaturally loud through the corridor, and the house answered in kind, floorboards groaning, walls creaking, a distant door slamming somewhere deep in the dark. He tried to step backward, but the shadows clung to his feet, tugging him forward, guiding him toward the faint golden glow. Pause 3 to 5 seconds to let tension build. The glow revealed a door, blacker than shadow, pulsating as though alive. The air around it was thick, pressing, filled with the scent of cold earth, rust, and something else, something rotten and ancient, like a memory of decay long forgotten. The whispers circled him now, 1,000 voices speaking at once, impossible to distinguish. "Come, sleep, belong, forever." The traveler's hand trembled as he reached for the knob. It was ice cold, biting through his skin. The moment he touched it, a surge of darkness rushed forward, brushing over his body like liquid shadow. He shivered violently. The air itself seemed to pulse with a heartbeat that was not his own. The door swung open silently. Beyond it lay an endless blackness, thick and living. Tendrils of shadow reached toward him, curling around his legs, climbing his arms, whispering directly into his mind. Every instinct screamed to flee, yet he could not move. Something older, more patient, more intelligent than fear itself, held him firmly, coaxing, guiding, reshaping his will. The whispers thickened, turning urgent, almost pleading. "Do not fight, surrender, it is safe, you belong." He stepped forward. Darkness poured over him, wrapping around his limbs, his chest, his throat. He felt his very thoughts slow, thickening, turning into fog. Every sound, every creak of the floorboards, every faint whisper of distant footsteps, every soft sigh of timber, entered his mind as if the house had become part of him, and he part of it. The shadows pressed closer. Shapes formed in them, almost human figures, tall and thin, faceless, leaning close, brushing across his shoulders, trailing along his back. They whispered in voices that were not voices, speaking in rhythms that sank deep into his bones. "Sleep, rest, we have waited." He tried to look back, to see the hallway, to see the golden glow behind him, but the darkness had swallowed it. The corridor no longer existed. Only the pulse of the house remained, slow and steady, stretching beneath him, around him, inside him. And then he saw them, hundreds of eyes, shimmering faintly in the darkness, floating, watching, following. Portraits from distant halls, faces of the long dead, twisted in silent screams, hovering just beyond reach, leaning forward to see him fully. Their whispers joined together, harmonizing into a low, hypnotic chant. "You are ours, you belong, forever, sleep." The traveler's knees buckled. He fell, not to the floor, there was no floor, but into the embrace of the shadows, sinking slowly, weightless yet heavy. The darkness wrapped tighter, and he felt his body dissolve into the house itself. Each nerve, each thought, each memory was absorbed into the walls, the floor, the ceiling, the very pulse of the ancient structure. A sudden cold brush ran along his neck, slow and deliberate, like a warning. He knew instinctively it was neither hostile nor kind, it was the house, reminding him that it was patient, infinite, and eternal. Resistance was meaningless. The shadows hummed, breathed, whispered in tandem with his heartbeat. Sleep, sleep, sleep. Time ceased. Breath ceased. Motion ceased. There was only the rhythm of the house, the pulse of darkness, the eternal, endless presence of the walls, the floors, the timbers, the shadows, the portraits, all alive, patient, and unyielding. And the glow, the faint golden light that had drawn him here, folded into the darkness, warmth and cold merging, light and shadow twisting, until there was no distinction between glow and gloom, between the house and the traveler, between fear and calm. He surrendered completely. Mind, body, and soul merged into the house. The whispers softened into a lullaby. You are safe, you are ours, you belong, forever. The portraits leaned closer, their eyes shimmering faintly. The shadows relaxed, curling gently around the glowing darkness. Every floorboard, every wall, every beam, every corner exhaled in unison, steady and patient. Somewhere far away, another traveler might wander toward the house, weary, lost, seeking shelter. The house would sigh, groan, creak its doors, and whisper softly, "You are home." The traveler slept. Forever. The house waited. And it always would.